I was in one of those swanky new buildings in BKC in Mumbai. You know, one of those buildings which have these huge lift lobbies where all you need to do is to go and press a button to say which floor you need to go to, and then that little device tells you which elevator you should be going to. Seeing that cool piece of software reminded me of the time when it didn't exist. And that's what I want to talk about today. Hello and welcome to another edition of Chai with Pi, our weekly series of videos where I try and share simple stories and lessons which can help each of us become just a bit better. And if it's one of those videos that you like or you'd like to share with someone else, remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future editions of Chai with Pi. Several years ago, I remember when I'd drive into office, I'd park my car in the basement and then get to a small lift lobby. And in that lobby were just 3 elevators, one of which was the one that would stop at every floor, and the other 2 would stop either at the odd floors or all the even floors. My office was on the 6th floor of that building, and I remember how almost every morning I'd get there and then I'd wonder which elevator should I take. Should I wait for the one that stops everywhere, or should I take that faster one which stops only at the alternate floors? And typically what would happen is that I found that you'd end up taking the elevator that came first. So you know perhaps that the one that stops only on your floor or on all the even number floors will go faster. The fact that the other elevator would come first would mean that we'd all flock into it and then hope that it wouldn't stop on every floor. And guess what? Everyone would get in, and as the elevator would near floor number 1 and stop, you could see almost everyone in that lift heaving a collective sigh and saying, why does this happen to us? Why do we have to be late again today? And of course, it was just one of those things. But as I thought about that elevator story, I thought how this is probably true for many things in our lives. That elevator dilemma plays itself out in so many ways in our lives. Think about it. Very often in our lives, we decide what we want to do, and then we get tempted by another alternative, by another option which presents itself first. It might be a good idea for us to ensure that if you've decided that the lift that you want to take is the one that will stop on alternate floors, don't get tempted by the fact that the other elevator came in early. We often make the mistake of choosing the suboptimal option merely because it presented itself first. Something for us to think about. The second, and perhaps the even bigger lesson out of this elevator story is this. I think we are all too busy, too caught up in trying to get there first. We put a premium on speed, and those few seconds, which is all I'm guessing would be the difference between taking one elevator or the other, those few seconds become such a huge thing in our minds that they become the reason why we get tensed, we are not so happy with what's happening, and we walk into work perhaps with a slightly grumpy look, all for a few seconds. In our lives, it's a good idea for us to say, maybe it's no big deal getting there first. Maybe the prize is not always to the swiftest. And that might help us in enjoying the journey called life. And that might help us in enjoying that elevator ride too. And instead of being worried that it's stopping on every floor, you might just look around and make small talk with the people who are sharing that ride with you. Something for us to think about. I was telling my wife about this story, and you know what she said? She looks at me and says, why do you bother with those 2 elevators? Why don't you take the stairs instead? That's another story for another day. That's all in this week's edition of Chai with Pi. Do remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and until next time, enjoy your chai.